Hello everybody, John here, and today on To The Garage we are going to get the ball joint out of our top wishbone at a minimum. Hi everyone, John here, and last time we removed the top wishbone from the car. We took out the old bushings and we're left with this floppy ball joint. All we've done so far is remove the boot from it, and as we discussed last time, it can be a bit of a pig to get out, so the majority of people just buy new wishbones for the top. The bottoms are actually even harder, and pretty universally people buy completely restored bottom wishbones. So I'm going about it a long way because I can, and because it's fun and interesting and cheaper, and I can share with you guys how to do the same should you choose to do so. So this thing is a push fit from this side. It's pushed in this way. What's not clear because of all the corrosion is the bush has a huge flange on it. So practically everything you can see here is bush, and it's pushed home until that flange hits the forging. So how to get it out? It's got to be pushed from this side, but it's got to be resting on something here. Now this bit is easy to rest on, but what about this? There's no edge as such, and that's what we've got to arrange for. And I plan to do that by cutting the flange off this bush, just locally. Now if we go over to my little press, this is not an expensive press, not in the UK anyway, a little Clark strong arm thing, very simple. But I've got to say, it is possible to do everything I'm about to describe using a vise. It's just not as convenient, and you probably need two people to hold things in place as long as you've got a really good quality vise. You can also get C-shaped or G-shaped, G-cramp style bearing pushers and ball joint pushers. They can also do the job, but do not buy cheap and nasty because these are well and truly pushed in. My press is a 10-ton press. Has no gauge or anything clever on it. It's actually the sort of thing you could make yourself once you see how these things are done. I've got a bottle jack, same sort of thing you'd use for heavy vehicles, vans, trucks, that you can pump up like so, and it jacks itself away from a fixed top and pushes down on this base. And it's pulling against these two springs, and this is just coming down reasonably parallel. So it's not a super accurate press. It presses down onto this beam, which is supported by some nice heavy rods, and therefore the whole frame can be adjusted to give you quite a long throat. I've got these nice heavy V-blocks, but I intend to use as part of my rig for pushing the bearing out. So what you can imagine is, if I chop a little bit off that flange, I should be able to use the V-block here on the forging and not the ball joint, and with a little bit of packing support the wishbone, and then come down on here, and we need to push just the middle part of this that way. So I've got impact sockets. They're always a great standby when you're doing anything to do with press work, and so I can sit on that edge there and push the whole thing through. So our first step is just cleaning up this area to get rid of some of the grease, because I'll get it on me and it's stopping me seeing what I'm doing properly. And then before I do anything cleverer, I just need to clean up this area because it's crusty with corrosion, so that I can see what I'm doing. Got an old screwdriver. I think actually some of the thickness of this is made up with old underseal. Another reason for trying to do this yourself rather than buying a restored wishbones is that it's rather expensive to do it the other way. I'll do a little search for a current price for replacement wishbones with the ball joint already changed and new bushes, and put it on screen for you. But you know, we're talking hundreds as opposed to buying a pair of those for about £30. Okay, so we can see what we're working with now. And what I need to do, I could probably get away with just cutting the flange off like that and sitting it on an edge. But because I've got my nice V-blocks, something at 90 degrees would be good. So I'm going to try and cut there. And there, to give me some land to sit on to push this out nice and square. Now I could certainly use an angle grinder to cut this, or a Dremel, both of which would be a good choice. I've not done this before, but I thought I'd give it a go just to see if you do need any special tools. I suspect this is not going to be hard. So I'm going to use a hacksaw with a decent blade in it. I've got a bimetallic Sandvik, a laminated blade you'd call it, I guess, which are nice and sharp. And this is obviously going to give a lot of control. The key to doing this is don't nick the forging, because you create a stress razor which will weaken it. Yeah, it's actually very soft. So I'd even go as far as to say you don't need a flash blade. Some viewers like to see sort of tool tips and hand tool instructionals. This is a good way to hold a hacksaw. So hand around the grip, index finger along the strengthening bar, or this on mine, depends on the design of the handle. I can't actually get up there easily. And using your front hand, your left hand in my case, to just guide it. And longer cutting action is better than shorter cutting action, because you use more of the blade and it will encourage you to cut more smoothly, and do not apply a lot of downward force. If this is going to cut through, it won't have much to do with how strong you are or how heavy you are. The teeth on your blade are either harder than this material and will cut it, or they're not. And now I'm close, I'm just you can use a chisel or a punch, just get in that gap, give it a knock. Probably need to reposition for this. That's something I'm knocking down onto, like so. You can actually see it twitching there, so I'm very close. Very easy to just saw straight through, but I'm just taking my time because I don't want to mess the forging about more than I have to. There we go. And off she comes. Right, let's just show you that. The bright line is actually still bush, so hopefully that'll clean up rather well. Right, I'll do the other one. No need to bore you with the details on that, it's the same. Okay, with all my due care, I still scratch the surface, but that's nothing. And I better dress that back up so there's no stress razors. But we've lost the flange in the important area. I cut the corner off just because I could. Right, some penetrant. I use WD-40 penetrant, but you don't have to. Not sponsored, I just like this stuff. I think I like the container as much as I like the product. All the WD-40 stuff has these nifty nozzles, bends, etc. You can fold that down and still use it as a spray. I just think it's well packaged and it's not too expensive. And it's a classic that most people know and does the job very, very well. Then we've got a little recess around here, which is quite handy. So we're going to fill that up with penetrant. A little bit of impact. This is never going to move it, it's just adding a little bit of energy. Kind of think of it as warning the joint that it's going to be opened up, so why not get used to it. Some of you won't have quite understood the purpose to this point, but I'm going to sit that like that, and now I'm pushing against the bush and not holding it back up on the other side. If I'd put this like this, then I'm just pushing against myself. So I needed to be able to sit on the forging, and now I can on this side. Okay, so now I need to push down, and I want to push on this edge here. You can use this bit that's in the recess, but I can get on this. This is not a problem. So that socket is going to do a good job of that. Got quite a big gap there, but if I move this up a step, I know it's too high. So I've just got some spacers. They're just going to make it make up the gap a little. Solid, so they can't be compressed. Then bring my jack down. Safety glasses on. And good luck everybody, here we go. Okay, just bringing up the slack. And that's the first sign of movement. There she goes. Pretty straightforward. She's moving well now. Actually, I've just run out of travel, so I'm just going to back off. Just loosen the bottle jack's release, and because I've got those springs, it pulls itself back up. Let's put another spacer. And it's all going to fall down onto the ground now, so I'm just going to hold on to these. They're not under extraordinary pressure anymore. It's moving quite nicely, just so that they don't go all over the floor. But the ball joint will. And that was the sound of the ball joint going. And there we go, ball joint removed. You can see, nice shiny surface in there. You can actually see the machined annular rings, and then the scrape marks made by the bush. Now, in fact, we can see all of those machined rings, except for the few scrape marks. Makes me pretty certain this is the original ball joint, which is not an extravagant claim, because my car's done about 50,000 miles. It might be old, but it hasn't seen the action, but a lot have. So we'll look at the bush. Let's have a look at the ball joint. Yeah, lovely surface on it. Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that these are the originals. Now, I did say this could be done in your vise if you haven't got a nice press like I have. Things to remember: A, decent quality. You don't want the casting of your vise to snap. So if it's a chocolate thing, don't try it. If you've got a half decent vise, all you need to do is get yourself a very large socket that's going to touch around the outside of your cut down bush, and you might have to cut off quite a lot just to get that circular contact to make it reasonably safe. Another socket on this side with enough depth on it so it'll go over the spindle of this and make contact on this edge or this edge, being careful not to touch the forging. And then the last part of the challenge is just having a vise with enough throat here to open up and accommodate this plus those two sockets. So again, a reasonably strong and large vise. As said, even with all my care, I've still got these scratch marks on here. So what I'm going to do is linish them off, keeping this nice and flat, just to lose the edges so that they're not stress razors. I'm using a power file, but if you haven't got a power file, then a block of wood and some emery cloth will be fine, and actually probably better because it's easier to keep it flat. I've just been very careful to make sure I'm staying flat and not taking much material. So I just tied it up. Okay, so the next step is just to clean this up. Anybody who lives in the UK and is into cars will know this finish. Yeah, under the sea anchor effect. It's just the nature of our roads and salting and the weather and everything else. Now I do have a media blaster over here, which would make reasonably short work, got a big old compressor as well, of cleaning that up really well. But I don't want to use it today for a couple of reasons. Chief among them is, there's an extractor that I fit, which is a hoover, or a vacuum cleaner I should say, which I've got a long hose and a take outside, but even with that, it does generate quite a lot of dust. And my car is on the ramp and not covered up. And this is one of the reasons that I said in a previous video, I've got plans, possibly this Christmas period, I'm not sure, to do a lot of emptying out in my big shed, which is just opposite where my garage is. And actually install my big compressor, which is very, very noisy, and my grip blaster over there, on the grounds that I only ever really use the grip blaster when I've got the car out of here, because getting very abrasive powders on the car. Also, you know, talking through how to restore these wishbones with you, I've already explained you can use a voice rather than using a little press. I don't want people thinking that, oh, well, it's all right for John, he's got a grip blaster and everything else. I might go a bit over the top on the finish, but you can imagine your own way of doing that. So I'm just going to wire brush this. Once I've got the vast majority of the debris off using a wire brush, I'll give it a clean up with some alcohol, and then I might use a few power tools on it and do the same thing again. But yeah, we'll do it all by hand. Okay, so it's all cleaned up. The next stage for most people is just give it a spray over with a bit of primer and then some decent top coat, a black or a silver, and you're good to go. But just for longevity, and again, because I have the kit, I'm going to powder coat it. So what we're doing now is we've got the clean wishbone hanging in a little oven, warming up against a halogen heater, and we're going to warm that up till about 180 degrees C, and then we'll spray plastic powder with a static charge on the actual wishbone in the general vicinity of it, and that plastic powder will bond to the wishbone and give it a really hard, long-lasting, heat-proof, salt-proof finish. It's the same finish that I used on the brake calipers, and they've been on, as those of you regulars to the channel will know, for years now, and still looking great despite some pretty big thermal cycles, the worst of the weather and everything that the car can throw at it. So powder coating, good, but not everybody's got the kit. Spray paint's fine. Okay, this bit's filmed using a bad chest mount, so we'll see how we go. So I've got a simple system by Electrostatic Magic. I've had it for years and years. Does everything I need. Essentially an air gun with a pot full of the powder of my choice. The powders come in various colours and grades, and this has got a dryer on it and it's hooked up to my compressor, which is underneath the bench. This unit here is turned on, and that's the electrostatic generator. There's a foot pedal, which I've left on the seat there for you to see, and that is connected via this lead to the component that's hanging up inside the oven. And when I press the pedal, the item will be electrostatically charged, as will the powder as it passes over these prongs, and they're oppositely charged, and the powder should flow to any uncovered areas of the metal object. Then, as soon as it gets back up to 180 degrees, it should cure onto the object. bit too much air pressure there, but it will attract itself to the wishbone. That's the problem with using a tool once in a blue moon. I get good with it, then I use it for 12 months. Okay, so have a look at the coating. Not bad. Gonna just flip it round. We'll put this onto the other spit to heat up. Well, got my top wishbone back out of the powder coating oven, but you're gonna have to wait till next time to see it reassembled and refitted. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.